GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com. All right, welcome everybody. We're going to be taking a look at some cool playing cards today in my collection, stuff that I like to have when we travel for playing games and stuff, just interesting decks to have fun with, and then some of the more interesting card games. Some you're probably familiar with, some you might not be, but we'll take a look at a bunch of them. Got them all over here to the side, and we'll be pulling them out here where we can take a closer look at them. So let's start off with this one. Let's see, should we just start off with this one? Let's start off with the playing cards here. So the first one that we've got in the highlighted down there in the Amazon video is the spotter cards. So I've got lots of different aircraft identification cards. This is a more modern deck with kind of a more modern design on the back, but you can see that they're very similar to the vintage decks in that they're pretty simple front, side, and bottom view to see the silhouettes and some of the major features without any color or any kind of distraction, so that you're going to see it like you're going to see it against the sky, just as a silhouette, and to identify friend and foe, to identify what type of threat or what it might be. Pretty interesting decks and pretty good artwork. It's a well-made deck, so you can definitely play good, or play card games with it well. It's quality paper. They're not the thick card material; they're just standard card material. Overall, I'd say it's a pretty interesting deck, though. A lot of fun to talk about. I think the next one we'll bring up is this wild card, or wild plant. They call it the Wild Card Edible Wild Food Deck. And this one comes sealed in plastic with a chain on the back. And I've already opened this one so we can take a look at it. But they're going to have a hole through the deck, entirely through there, so that this ball chain can keep the cards tethered together. So as you can see from the outside, this is designed to be a wild food identification card game, designed for the teacher, gardener, gourmet cook, backpacker, survival expert. You could add bird watcher, hunter to that, anyone interested in wild foods. And it says identification of the 52 wild edible foods found in your environment, a food forager's card game. It is a regular deck of playing cards with 52 common, wild, edible food plants, and copyright 1987. This deck is the reprint from 1991. If we look at the bottom, you can see made in Trieste, produced by something. So I never heard of a deck made in Trieste. I don't even know what that is. So there we go. Oh, we got a comment over on Amazon from G23. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Thanks for the thumbs up. We got a whole bunch of thumbs, or I guess they're hearts over on Amazon. Thank you for that. Wesley's talking about one of our conversations from the last chat. So let's take a look at some of these plants that are for identification. You can see that you've got a drawing, or excuse me, a photograph on the front in full color with a drawing below. Also a habitat map so that you know if you're even in the right location for some of these. It's helpful for identification if there's two that kind of look similar. And then as you see, well, first off, notice there's the holes in each card. Now, they are a regular deck of cards, right? But they aren't your typical cards. They use up the whole thing, and the problem is eventually you're going to figure out that the 7 of hearts is the mullen, right? You're going to figure out which cards are which. But for playing solitaire and for just all right, so bad internet here. We'll see if we can stay a little bit better connected. But we were just checking out the edible wild foods cards, and then we kind of glitched out. We'll go on to the next deck. Give me some feedback. Let me know how the connection's going here again. So the next deck we're going to take a look at is the Iraqi Most Wanted. These are very close to the original deck from 2003. If we look at the back, underneath the official USA Hoyle products made in Cincinnati, Ohio label there, we can see that it says the Iraqi playing card something to present this commemorative credit playing. It says the Hoyle Playing Card Company is proud to present this commemorative reproduction of the Iraqi Most Wanted playing card deck, first issued uh, during the Defense Intelligence Agency and U.S. Central Command in Iraq in April of 2003. This faithful reproduction to the original deck includes all 52 wanted Iraqi personalities, plus the 2 jokers featuring the famous Hoyle Joker, and is suitable for all card games. And essentially that's what the decks look like, and they are made in the USA. There's been some question about that. Definitely made in the USA, made in Ohio by Bicycle or Hoyle, same company, and the United States Playing Card Company. If you take a look at an actual deck, the real decks from 2003, they open backwards or they open the other way. So the flap would be on this side. Also, when you look at it, it doesn't say Iraqi Most Wanted playing cards. It'll say, it'll have American, or actually it's on this side. It'll have an American flag in full color, and then much smaller, it says the United States Playing Card Company. Otherwise, they look almost exactly the same. The camo pattern's the same, and the artwork's the same. The only difference is the back, of course, is completely different on the original deck. It doesn't talk about being a commemorative deck. So people that are concerned that this is a copy, if it was a copy, it wouldn't say this is a commemorative reproduction on the back. It's your first indication that it's a reproduction. I'm not going to open it. It is a little bit opened, but it's technically a sealed deck still, so I'm not going to open it. But you to get an idea of what the cards look like in there. If I ever get a second one, I'll probably open it. So we're going to head over to the next deck. Some of these are fun for playing games with, poker and solitaire and things. This one would be a fun one for doing that with, especially if you had the original decks back in the day and you lost it, or you just got destroyed or something. These little less so. Spotter cards are definitely fun for playing card games. So it looks like I've got a couple of people saying, hey, over on Amazon. I need to refresh my screen. I think this is what's happening. So I probably had a glitch over here. Oh yeah, so hey, thanks to everybody who's saying hey over here. Thanks for the feedback, and thank you for all those hearts over there. I guess that's how you say thank you or whatever for a show over at Amazon. We're first learning that. DJ is saying, I remember the trading cards they had for them. Do you mean the Iraqi Most Wanted or something else? What we're going to bring up next is kind of going through the order of the Amazon table thing that we've got here, is this wild weather deck. I thought this is pretty cool. I don't know about you. I grew up doing road trips, and I hope people out there are taking their kids on road trips. You really get to see how large the country is. You get to see the transitions between the different climate, or what do you call them, different regions of the country, mountains to plains to the shores and the coasts and everything in between, where the swamps are and all that. So driving around the country, obviously there's some spots in between the fun stuff where it can get kind of boring, maybe even mind-numbing, right? Depending on what state you're in. So this is a card game that can be used at any time, but I think for driving, it's ideal. So it's got a dedication in here, which is cool. And essentially you've got, I'm trying to remember how you play this one. There's a couple of different ways you can play this, if I remember right. You've got these different colors, you've got different numbers, and then you've got different types of weather. And these can all be used for a bunch of different games, actually. And this is one of the reasons I like this particular one. One, I'm a big fan of science and learning with fun and with games is kind of cheating, because you're having fun playing, distracting yourself, passing the time, having some fun with a different type of game that maybe you're playing with some kid who's mastered some game already. It's no fun playing with them, or vice versa. You're playing with somebody who's old and they've played some card game a zillion times, so it's no fun playing with them. You bring out a new game like this, everybody's got a new, kind of similar starting point. But the thing is, this deck lets you play in so many different ways. So there's this instruction booklet here, and it talks about some of the different ways that you can play the games based on the cards. And as you figure out that the cards are just, similar tokens, or however you want to call them, like playing pieces. You can come up with your own ways to play. So I really like games like this, and this one is a card game, so it's conducive to playing in a vehicle, definitely in a hotel room or in a campground. But it also packs up into the box, which isn't super huge. It's made out of cardboard, so it's biodegradable technically, even though there's all this clay on it. But it's compact and easy to deal with as far as card games go, or travel games go. I think that one's a winner. Feel free to let me know if you've played any of these, or if any of these are intriguing. Of course, if you want to buy any of them, there's links on Amazon over there. Next one is another card game, 52 Things to Do in the Car. This one's kind of cool because this one came out in 1994, and they've come out with a couple of different editions. I just gave away my newer deck, and this because I found this older deck. So essentially, it's really similar to the Wild Weather, but it's a different game in that it's got different kind of cards. It's not dependent on just the weather, but like the weather game, there's some similarities and some differences in these cards, and they can be played in more than one way. And again, just another mechanism to play a bunch of different games. These are for traveling in the car, but I always like to mention you can use them in a campground, you can use them in the hotel room. They're for travel. So you can remember the stuff that happened on the road. You can prepare for the stuff that's going to happen on the road the next day. Really didn't get to do this too often, but on road trips, I think you got a lot of potential for not really studying, but learning while you're on the trip, and potentially just keeping people occupied who may otherwise be bored, let's say. The next thing in the list is essentially a regular deck of cards, but if you've got a swimming pool, or if you're going to be going out camping or anything, this is a deck that is completely plastic, 100% plastic. So a lot of times, most of the time, cards are made out of heavy card material. That's what they're called, cards, I think. And sometimes they're made out of a more durable card or a textured card, so that they can shuffle and play better. And those are usually the best playing cards. These smooth plastic ones are actually kind of a pain to play with for some things like shuffling and for just holding in your hands. But considering they can't absorb any water, they can be used completely underwater in rain in environments like camping or hiking or something. They're the same weight. They weigh the same as a regular deck of cards. So something I figured I'd include, even though they don't necessarily look any different than a regular deck of cards. They are super practical for some purposes. On the hearts on Amazon are just like saying hey or thumbs. Only on Amazon you can whale on them, so people can do this kind of thing, and they shower hearts. So I appreciate it. They'll stick with the show and launch the show. Clover had something like 14,000 of them by the end of his show yesterday. So that's how I learned about them. All right, next one in the list, and I'm going through my iPhone over here because I don't have an iPhone, and I'm going through and so I'll click on this next one, and that'll highlight it over on Amazon. If you're over on Amazon, you'll see what I'm talking about. So the next one we're highlighting is this Bear Smart deck. How cool is that? So 52 tips for staying safe in bear country. So there's survival cards out there. There are wilderness survival type of cards, but this one's almost entirely. It's like every single card is a different tip, and it's all about bears. So I don't know how concerned you are about bears, but this can be an interesting deck. I will tell you that I've gone through the whole thing, and not one of these assumes the bear is going to have a knife. So it is what it is. It is a regular deck of cards, as you see. So in other words, you could play it like a regular deck of cards. Some of these are kind of tougher to play just regular games with. This one, they're all the same on the back. They're not, there's no way to know which cards are which. And they do have a lot of fun. So you could probably have a lot of fun with this deck, especially going out camping or hunting or something with friends that you've been friends with for a while. I'm guessing you can play around with this deck quite a bit. Let's see. So then DJ saying the General Schwarzkopf card was in every pack. Yeah. So again, I'll just read you the back of this one. and this one is made in 2006 by the Get Bear Smart Society. So potentially as a real awareness campaign. Get Bear Smart is a unique deck of 52 regular playing cards plus 2 jokers that you can use to play your favorite card games or create new variations or traditional games. Get 52 tips for staying safe in bear country while at home, hiking, camping, and all about general bear etiquette. Ideas on variations of games are included inside. They're a valuable educational tool. They make a great souvenir too. Okay, that's a great idea. It says that the proceeds go towards saving bears' lives. So that's cool. So it is a deck with a purpose. So that one's also highlighted over here. I need to figure out how to get my iPhone to quit timing out every time I don't touch it for 2 seconds. If someone knows how to do that, let me know. Next up is a Star Wars deck. We're probably going to do a whole show on Star Wars stuff. I'm not a massive collector, but I think I have enough Star Wars stuff to do a whole show on it. And if you know people who are Star Wars collectors, maybe I can help you out with some ideas. So this is a very economical stocking stuffer, gift you can drop in the mail, something to just give people. But it's a playing card deck. Only the artwork is all focused around sort of, I'm going to call them the, what would you call these? The Force Awakens version of stormtroopers and villains. So, there's lots of different versions of Star Wars at this point. The Force Awakens, those 3 movies, the last 3 is what I call them, have their own version of stormtroopers and their own bad guys. And this is a playing card deck where the artwork is all focused on the bad guys. So, made in Dallas, Texas. I'm guessing, they're made in China for a place in Dallas, Texas. Interesting. So, but with the Star Wars branding and licensing. Again, a great gift for Star Wars fans or just people that like to play cards and stuff and like modern movies. But for people that like playing cards and aren't into modern movies, might be older folks, in fact, some nostalgia, some vintage, some reproduction vintage type of stuff. I think back in the day, you would get playing cards, before video games, playing cards were the Game Boys of the day. Actually, playing cards were probably the PlayStation of the day too, and whatever other video games there are, because you could play with quite a few people. But this is a real deck of cards, or I should say a deck of actual Coca-Cola branded cards, but it's a new deck. It's made in Cincinnati, Ohio, made in USA, but licensed and branded for Coca-Cola. And this one looks like, I'm looking for the date on it. I know this one's a little dated at this point. I've had it for a while. It does say all rights reserved, but it doesn't have a date. But they come out periodically with different vintage artwork. Coca-Cola's had some really epic signage and things during the years, or over the years. And this one, I would say, this particular one looks like stuff from maybe the 30s. So I haven't opened it. I just like to collect cards, and I don't have to look at every single deck I have. So if you're interested in a gift for someone who's a Coca-Cola fan, I know probably 3 people who are big Coca-Cola collectors. I don't think you could go wrong with a deck of cards, because either you're going to get the deck like this and have it, like I do, as a sealed deck. But even if you give somebody a second deck, it just gives them an excuse to open it and play with those cards. So you're either helping them add to the collection in this way, or you're giving them something that they can actually play with. So at least that's my idea for trying to gift somebody who's hard to gift for. Now we're going to go to we're pretty much into the game section now. We've left the playing cards completely, and now we'll just talk about some decks of card-based games. So from the makers of Uno, I think it says somewhere up here, from the makers of Uno, we're getting to this one called Snappy Dressers. I saw this one and I thought, I'm going to try it because I like card games, but it turns out this is like one of the top-selling card games out there right now. It's kind of interesting. So it's an more adult version of Uno. Take a second here. Looks like something glitched. It's like a more adult version of Uno because there's more to it. This is to keep track of score, I think, if I remember right. Everybody gets one of those just to make it a little quicker for everybody to keep track of everything. But you'll see there's these different cards, and there's different critters on each card, and those critters are wearing different clothing, and that clothing has different colors. And I'm missing something. They're also holding something. So there's different. I don't think any of these cards is the same, or if there are, there's a whole bunch of combinations. Or it might say in here that I think it does say very unique deck. Like everything matches, so there's always going to be something between the two cards that's the same, but it's going to be a different thing. So again, it's the kind of game where instead of just saying here's the card game, play it over and over again, it says here's the cards, use these as the foundation for as many games as you might want to come up with. So at the bottom of here is a very large kind of a poster style rule book or directions or whatever you want to say. And there's just so many games in here, lots and lots and lots of games. I think it's a neat game because, or a neat card game, because again, you can just kind of keep it in here. It's not super big or anything. If you really wanted to, you could just rubber band this with the directions and have it even smaller. But I like to keep them in the boxes. I personally keep these on hooks because they're easy to store. I just leave them on the hooks all the time. But this is a great game for if you're a little bit older, dealing with kids that are a little bit older and they're sick of playing Uno. And this one can, again, be a game where you let people kind of create their own rules. All right, so the next one, I'm going to refresh over on Amazon and see if that's doing anything for me. And we'll go on to the Slam, Scrabble Slam. So another card game. This one is obviously a version of Scrabble. You put this deal down in the center of the table to pull your cards from. Each of the cards is like a Scrabble thing, but there's a different letter on each side, and it tells you right away so that you can keep track of them all. And the idea is you deal out some cards or some letters to everybody, and then you start with a 4-letter word sets, let's say. So that's the first 4-letter word. Everybody will get some cards, and they try to, is that a word? Cephs? I don't know. So they try to create C's, right? So that created a new word. So you try to get rid of your cards as you keep this word evolving. And they don't talk about it in here, but I'm sure you could come up with other games where you do with 3-letter words, 4-letter words, 5-letter words, or maybe words that all have to do with sailing or something. So a fun way to play Scrabble in a card game comes with the holder. But again, if you don't want to keep your card games in these boxes, you could keep them a lot smaller with just a rubber band or with a small backy or something. But like I said, I like to store, since they already make these card boxes to fit on the store shelf with the hooks. I have some of those hooks anyway, so I just store all my card games on hooks. And I know what I have, so it's not like I got to see them all, and that way it saves a lot of space in the closet. I don't know, let me know how you store your card games out there. Some people store them in boxes, I guess. All right, next up is the plain old Uno, but I always throw it in there in case people don't know about it already. But it's a super fun card game. I don't know when it was invented, but I've been playing it my whole life. Each deck comes with 100 cards, and anybody can play this because there's not too much to it. You've got letters and numbers, you've got numbers and colors, and every once in a while there's something that'll change the order or flip something around. You can play slow, you can play fast. There's a couple of different variations at this point. I don't know if they're official or not, but there's different ways to play the game. A game for all ages, kind of like checkers or chess or something. If you want to really play it, you can really play it. If you just want to have fun, you can just have fun. So I'm sure most people have heard of Uno. I like to think of Uno as sort of maybe the center point for a lot of card games. It's either kind of baby game less than Uno, or more interesting than Uno, or more difficult directions than Uno, or something like that. I always think of everything in some direction from Uno. I don't know if I'm the only one that does that. All right, so we're going on to G23 is saying he's throwing a bunch of hearts in there. I'm not seeing the thing keep increasing in number, so I'm assuming it's only going to take so many from you. Don't get in trouble spamming or anything. But thanks for the hearts. I do appreciate it. Next up is a game called Swap. Again, another Uno-like game. I don't know if this one came from Uno or not, but very similar in that you've got some colors and you've got a direction of play. But in this game, it's a little more action. So if you've got kids that like to have a little more energy or expel a little bit more energy in a card game than just sitting there, this is a game where you're going to be slapping the cards, and as long as it doesn't get out of hand, this one can be a lot of fun. And for an outdoor game or something, you can change this to include running around, wear kids out if you have to. So swap. Oh, I forgot to flop it over to swap. Swap it over to swap, let's say. So then the next one is another car game, a travel game, and it'll be our last one that we take a look at today. Rubberneckers. It says everyone's favorite travel game. As you saw with the leather game, this one comes in its own box, which I think is a good idea. You get an idea of what you're getting into opening it, but then once you're in there, you've got, again, multiple ways to play, different types of methods of playing the game. And then you've got cards that are focused on stuff you'd expect while you're driving. But again, kind of in a structured way of playing a driving game. Larger cards than some of the others. So, that's either a plus or a minus depending on your situation. But I also like to, again, whenever I'm talking about travel games, remember these things can also be super useful in a hotel, campground, when everybody's getting tired or waiting for the food to get there kind of thing. Some of these games that you can leave in a suitcase or in the pouch of a backpack or something can really save the day. They're all going to get potentially wet, so consider putting them into like a Ziploc bag or something, or a lock sack if you have one, which is a very strong type of plastic bag that's even made for going underwater. And maybe throw in some dice. Some dice can be a lot of fun, and with a deck of cards can create a whole other level of game fun. All right, with that, we'll end this one. We'll say thanks to the people on Amazon for joining us. We do this kind of simulcast, so we'll go. Oh, you know what? I was going to throw in here as the last thing as well. Since people might be watching this as a gift ideas for kids going to dorms, let's not forget the 8-ball. Having a magic 8-ball has been around for a long, long time. It's kind of interesting how this came around. It's essentially a 20-sided dice. It says yes in there, so it's saying, should you buy a magic 8-ball? And then it comes up and says yes. So anyway, it's a 20-sided dice with 20 different responses in there in a blue fluid, and there's some sort of mechanism that stops it from getting too bubbly in there. And essentially, you ask the magic dice, the magic 8-ball, a question, and it'll pop up. Been around for a long, long time, kind of vintage, but kind of classic. And I always throw that in there, especially when we're talking games and just having fun. Consider one of these things for somebody you're getting going away dorm type of present or something. All right, with that, we'll wrap this thing up. Again, thanks to the people on Amazon for joining us. I guess since I got a clip of buttons here anyway, we'll go back through. We talked about that magic 8-ball, the Rubberneckers game, cool game for travel. We've got the swap game, kind of a more active, a more energetic version of Uno. Uno, the classic, up to a couple of 4+ players. Actually, I think it's saying you can get 10 players. I've never played with that many people. But Uno is awesome. Just keep adding more decks if you need to. We've got the Scrabble Slam. So if you're not looking for just the simple colors and numbers type of game, and you want to play with a little bit more like a verbal or a language type of game, if you want to get away from that stuff all completely and get into just a game with a lot more matching and a lot more variables, you can create your own game. Consider the Snappy Dressers, one of the hottest games of the season. Then we got into some playing cards, the Coca-Cola cards here. lots of different versions of these. If you're into Coca-Cola or you know people, you'll find lots of different Coca-Cola cards. Same thing with Star Wars. This one happens to be the villains from the Force Awakens, the last 3 movies. I don't know. They weren't my favorite Star Wars Stormtroopers or nothing, but I don't have one of the earlier ones. We have the Bear Smart, awesome deck that goes to save bears. So save yourself from bears while you're helping to save bears. Awesome. We have this plastic deck. If you're going to be playing around the pool or going out camping or something where you're concerned about your deck of cards getting wet, a completely plastic deck can get rid of those concerns. We looked at the 52 things to do in the car, and kind of similar to some of these other travel games, I just throw in there again. It also works in a campground or the hotel. We've got the weather game. So some of these other ones are just more like, hey, watch a bus go by, or honk if you see the billboard or whatever, kind of just stuff that's going to happen. The weather game can be a lot more fun because it's kind of like science. It's kind of like giving people something to learn while they're playing a game, a weather game. Then we've got the Iraq Most Wanted. If you know somebody who was in the global war on terror, chances are they either have a deck that's stuck away somewhere at the bottom of a duffel bag or something, or some kind of a locker, or they lost it completely. So getting one of these reproduction made in USA decks is a great way to kind of give them back a souvenir from that era. Then we've got this Wild Cards edible food deck with the hole through the deck and the ball chain so that you can keep it as a true survival implement in your pack. And at the same time, it is a usable deck of playing cards. And then lastly, the thing that started it all, I started with these, not this particular deck, but this type of deck when I was a little kid, just being interested in a deck of cards that could do more than just play cards. And I started collecting different types of identification cards. I might do another video. Give us some feedback if I should do more videos on just identification cards. I probably have 12 or 15 of those. But yeah, this deck that started it all, or my interest in all of this, was aircraft identification cards, originally developed during World War II to help just individuals understand what might be flying around. And if it turned out to be a bad, an invasion or a bad guy's plane, they could take the appropriate actions. And they've been around really ever since. This is a modern reproduction of one. Everything here is available on Amazon. We've got a link on the YouTube side. If you're in Amazon, there's links all over the place. So again, thanks everybody for joining us live. I'm going to shut down the Amazon side at this side. We'll keep going on the other side if there's any questions. All right, I probably should have left that thing running while it ended, but did pretty good. I'm trying to be my own producer here and swap things around while I'm doing this, but I think that went a little smoother than some of the last ones. So thanks everybody for joining us on the YouTube side. The other side, the Amazon side, is kind of weird and it has different rules. So I'm still trying to figure out how these platforms are with their rules. So thanks again for the people that dropped hearts over there. It's only showing me 3 hearts right now, so I'm guessing even though you zapped a bunch of hearts at me, it figured that was spam or something. But yeah, I don't know how Clover got so many. All right, I can close this maybe. There we go. All right. And Gunpowder saying thanks. You bet. Thank you. Thanks to GJ for being here. Thanks, George Chucker out there. Thanks. Drive safe. And thanks for the feedback, G23, with the Amazon side. Still trying to figure that out. Essentially, we're dropping videos on Amazon because they're shoppable videos over there. People can buy those decks of cards, right? So it's kind of fun. Plus, it puts a video over here. We can talk about it, if people are interested. So anyway, just kind of trying this out. This was my 5th one or 4th one. And I might be doing another one because I don't want to leave it on the playing cards. I want to do another one here before too long so that the playing cards kind of get shuffled in, so to speak. But yeah, appreciate everybody joining us live. I'm going to throw a commercial up for our store. Stay tuned for some of the stuff that you see on these Amazon videos for sale on the Gear website store, because some of this stuff, once I've made the video, I'm selling it. All right, thanks for watching.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
So you guys are out there. Thanks for jumping in at the last minute. It just is about to end. I couldn't find the thing on Facebook to